Hi folks, I'm Greg Adamore, your host for Experts of Southern Nevada. And today I have a special guest coming on, Eli Segall, like the Jonathan Livingston Segall. He's a reporter and business reporter, real estate and finance reporter at the Las Vegas Sun. I've been following your articles for some time and appreciate you coming on the show.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Tell us what you basically do at the Las Vegas Sun and assignments and so on.
Sure. Yeah, like you said, I cover real estate there. That's my primary beat. So within that, it's the residential housing market and also the commercial market. So office, retail, industrial, and multifamily. The apartment complexes and high rises and so forth. So that's my main coverage area is real estate. Probably 80 to 90% of the stories I do are involve real estate, or are real estate stories. And then beyond that, it's what we call general assignment business beats. So everything from technology to nonprofits to a little bit of aerospace to all kinds of stuff, whatever the editors need.
It's a pretty fascinating subject now in Las Vegas, where the real estate market's been going up and down the last 5 years. Where do you guys see the market? Do you have forecasts for? I guess you get as much statistics that we do and more, right?
Yeah. I mean, we don't do forecasts at the Sun, but we read everyone who does. Folks who are doing forecasts, and basically what we're seeing for 2014, as far as the forecasts go, is that people are expecting, at least for home prices, just talking about the housing market right now, people expect home prices to keep going up in Vegas, but not nearly as fast as they have been for the last couple of years. I'd say for the last 3-4 months, maybe even 5 months, analysts and brokers and agents, they've been saying that prices will still continue to rise, but not at the meteoric rate that they have been, because as I'm sure you well know, that over the last 2 years in Vegas, home prices have gone up about 50% for previously owned homes. And so from about, was it like 120 to 180, roughly speaking, over the last 2 years. So it's been a very fast rise. Now, granted, it's coming from basically nothing because of the real estate bust and the crash and everything. So had a lot of ground to make up, but it was rising really fast, and I even over the last year or so, people have told me that they're concerned that it's been rising so fast that there have been concerns of another bubble forming, and some people have said, they're just making up for lost time after the market crash. But yeah, so like I was saying, as far as forecasts go, people are expecting it to kind of tail off a little bit, but still for prices to still continue rising.
Sure, it seems like the market's rebounding and getting a little more healthy. We're seeing a lot less short sales and more traditional sales, which makes things a lot easier for the buyers and the sellers.
In theory, yeah, there are, like you said, their short sales have gone way down. I think as of a year ago, short sales were almost half of every deal that was going on in Vegas for a used single-family house. 2 years ago, almost half of every deal was a foreclosure sale. It was a bank-owned property that that banks were selling. And right now, I think as of last month, it was 70% of all deals in Vegas were traditional sales between just a regular buyer and a seller, no banks involved. But even within that 70%, it doesn't mean that every sale now is between a local resident to someone who wants to live here. There's still a ton of investors involved, buying and selling homes, flipping homes. Flipping has actually gone up a little bit, so that's not dying down at all. So you still have a lot of investors, and a lot of people who don't live here who are buying and selling property. So and so it does make it easier in some sense without having banks, because doing a short sale, as you know, as anyone in real estate knows, can take a year or more sometimes. Sometimes they can go quick, 3-6 months, but I think that would be probably the exception rather than the rule. They're pretty arduous, intensive, heavy on the paperwork kind of deals, and they take a long time. And so it's easier now to buy a house if you don't have to go through that whole rigmarole. But you're still competing with investors who come in with cash, and they buy houses in bulk sometimes. Not as much right now as they had been over the last year or so, but. So there's still a lot of competition for homes. I mean, I was just talking to a guy the other day who bought a house, and he told me that there were, I think, 12 or 15 other bids on the house, and he managed to get it. So within a couple days of the listing going up. So you still see a lot of competition. So it's not entirely made it easier, but I think without having to go through the short sale process and dealing with banks to buy a foreclosed house, it is easier in that respect.
Yeah, I've heard some of the hedge funds who are buying so many properties out here. And I think I heard just this week, I don't know if you've heard anything about it, but it was very hush-hush. I heard that the Department of HUD sold like about 1,200 homes that didn't hit the market. It was very low key. I don't know if
Yeah.
you've heard anything about that.
No, I hadn't heard about that.
I
No.
just heard something about that last night. Got leaked out at a seminar I went to. And,
Oh, wow.
said that they sold like about 1,200 homes and they never hit the market, and the hedge funds were buying them.
Yeah.
Hedge funds, when they buy, a lot of times what they do, and a lot of these guys are, a lot of different theories going on of where they came from. Some of them were execs in banking, but they basically are getting their money for around 1%, and the average mom and dad are having to pay 4%. So, if they're having a mom and dad are buying a house and just a simple investment, it's good for the economy because they're locals.
Yeah.
And that money stays in Clark County, which is good. Sometimes the foreign investors and the hedge funds, that money goes out. They'll buy the properties and turn them into rentals. And
Right.
We've seen a pretty big increase in the amount of investor-owned rental homes as opposed to the traditional owner-occupant, which I thought was very healthy for the local economy, for people who own homes and rent homes to be Las Vegas residents.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely, yeah. And it's funny too because there are so many. There's such a glut of rental homes on the market right now that I've actually heard over the last few months that the rental prices are starting to soften a little bit, and there are actually a lot of empty rental homes out there. This is all anecdotal. I don't have any data to tell you how many there are out there, but just anecdotally is what I hear. And so a lot of the bigger hedge funds and in Vegas, there have been really two primary firms, which is Blackstone Group out of New York. It's one of the largest private equity firms in the world. I think it might be the largest private equity firm in the world. And then also Colony Capital out of Arizona. They've just been buying over the last couple of years just tons of homes and to list them as rentals, as you pointed out. And they have started, from what I'm told, they've started to taper back quite a bit. They're still buying homes. They haven't exited the Vegas market, and there's still plenty of other investors here in Vegas. But those two firms in particular, they were two of the larger ones buying up homes in bulk. They've started to cut back on their local purchases because of the rising prices and the glut of rental homes out there. So it's a changing market, as real estate always is. It's I think anyone would tell you I think by nature it's a pretty volatile industry. Lots of ebbs and flows, and so it's a lot of changes. So whether it's good or bad, or maybe sometimes it's neither good or bad, neither good nor bad. It's just a change.
Yeah, I think we have timely information and knowledge is very important. That's one of the reasons it's so important to follow your column and follow our show and stay informed. People need to. We've had people from CoreLogic, we've had from the Lead Institute, we've had Marcus Conklin, and so some of the statistics that we all share and interpret, and I guess some different interpretations of the same data.
Sure.
Seems that Vegas is talking about bringing an arena, the sports arena. There's talk about interstate freeway, Highway 11, I think, from Canada all the way down to Mexico.
Right.
Airport, there's been talking about expanding the airports, and of course we did have the new terminal open up last year, I believe. So it seems like Vegas is kind of reinventing itself. I see cranes on the Strip. I see, that Ferris wheels. There's two of the biggest ones in the world are coming here. So I guess we're getting a makeover. All the hotels seem to reinvent themselves. So
yeah, that's kind of the Vegas style, is to knock things down and reinvent yourself, I suppose. But yeah, no, things are definitely picking up in Vegas. I don't, I've only lived here for about a year and a half, so I wasn't here when the crash happened. But I've heard plenty about how slow it got and how bad things were. And so I think right now things they've definitely improved, but Vegas still has a long ways to go. I mean, Vegas still has the highest rate of underwater borrowers in the country, has one of the highest unemployment rates in America for a metro area. Nevada, as a state, has the second highest unemployment rate in America. I think as of December it was like 8.8%, which was second highest. People aren't hiring that much. Employers aren't hiring that much. Job growth is pretty weak. Wages are flat from everything I see and hear. So there is progress out there, but overall Vegas, things are, as far as I can tell, things are still pretty sluggish as far as the economy goes out here. So
yeah, there seems to be throughout the country. I mean, some stocks going up and down, but there's two sides, almost two or three sides to every position. But I've heard some gloom and doom. Say that 47 million people are on food stamps and almost 100 million are on some form of a government assistance. Some will argue that we're turning into a socialist economy now, the sense of entitlement. But I know a lot of seniors, and we have a baby boomers. A large part of the population is going towards their Social Security, and it's not enough to really live on with the inflation going on. And I've heard some statistics recently that the money's being devalued by 8% because they say that the inflation is about 8%. So a lot of people on fixed incomes are really feeling the pinch now that they used to be prices, and people who go to the grocery store, you can tell You buy chicken or meat or pork or gas, whatever it is. Prices went up, and price of the income haven't risen as high to keep up with that, I think.
Right. Yeah, I think if you talk to the average person here in Vegas, they would tell you they probably haven't had a raise in a long time. Like I was saying, from all the data that I see and from what I hear anecdotally, talking to economists, talking to other people who follow this stuff for a living, is that wages are by and large flat. But what's interesting, though, is that it hasn't stopped, is kind of on a tangent, but hasn't stopped people from spending a lot. If you look at retail sales in Clark County that are put out by the state, they have been climbing pretty steadily over the last year or so. And it's interesting because when I've talked to, again, economists and also financial guidance counselors and those types of people, they're actually pretty worried that because wages are flat, because the economy is still, kind of wobbly and spending is going way up, that people are kind of returning to the bad habits of the boom era, which is buying stuff they can't afford and either tapping their savings or maxing out their credit cards or what have you for to get that car that they want, or buy new appliances or a new house even. But so it's kind of interesting.
Some of the people in the last 2 to 4 years when they haven't had a house payment, maybe they've been in a home, and because the banks were illegally or are proceeding improperly with their own foreclosure processes. We've had the Attorney General on. We've talked about robo-signing. We've had someone from Michelle Johnson's from the Financial Counseling Center come in and talk about some of the programs that they're adjusting to now that the banks are more compliant with the rules, and they're trying to not put people out in the street illegally. And so there's changes going on both sides, and the legislature's been pretty active with new bills and homeowners' bills of rights. So we see a constantly evolving landscape politically and economically here. But some people have said the last couple of years there has been a lot of spending because people weren't making their house payments. They're buying new cars, they're buying clothes, they're buying other goods and services. So it's got to end somewhere.
You would think, that's the same thing I've heard as well, is that people are, and this has been pretty well documented and reported, is that in Vegas, I mean, there are no hard numbers. It's tough. I don't think you could know exactly how many empty homes there are, but from the estimates that I hear, it's somewhere in the range of 40 to 60,000 homes that are without power right now, which would indicate that they're abandoned, or at least a good portion of them are abandoned. I'm sure there are a variety of reasons why they might not have power, but a good reason would be for a good portion of them is because they've been abandoned. But even when they're not abandoned, you still have people living in their home essentially mortgage free because of all of the foreclosure processing delays that have happened in the last couple of years because of AB 284, the robo-signing law that took effect in fall of 2011. It drastically slowed down, as you know, the foreclosure process. Banks had to provide signed affidavits of personal knowledge of the mortgage history so that they could legally foreclose on a delinquent borrower, because before, I mean, there were 4,000, 5,000 people a month losing their homes in Vegas, or I think it was maybe statewide. It's just an astronomical number. That slowed down to just a couple of hundred at one point. It's since picked back up, but so you have a lot of people, because of these processing delays and the banks having to provide more paperwork. If banks aren't foreclosing and they're in default of their loans, they're not paying their mortgage, now from what I hear, like you said, people are using that money that should be for housing on they're spending it on other things like appliances and cars and things like that. So.
And hopefully people will be able to save some of that. There's a lot of new financing. I don't know if you've been hearing anything, but I've heard that there's a stated income right now for commercial investors that have, they buy rental properties and they look at the cash flows on those. And they're trying to get that to apply for homeowners as well. So not that stated income was bad, but what they used to do on stated income, now they'll put and they're bringing back carrybacks, which is where an owner sells a home and the buyer will come in with 10% down. They'll get an 80% new mortgage and a 10% carryback. The seller will carry back 10% and participate in it. And that way, it's easier to qualify. There's no private mortgage insurance for the new buyer. So what changes in local financing? We're going to see people being able to buy again that before weren't able to.
Right.
Some banks are saying one day after foreclosure or a short sale, we can finance you. But that's not exactly true. That's if you haven't missed any payments. But
I'm sure there
are
a lot of
foreclosed on or short sale without being behind.
Yeah, I would guess there are a lot of strings attached to that. From everything I hear when I've talked to mortgage brokers and people who work in the mortgage industry, is that the days of stated income loans, no doc mortgage loans, are essentially over. And I mean, I've heard anecdotally that might be coming back, but it's unclear if that's even true for starters, or if it is, how widespread it is. But from almost everyone I've talked to, it's that you're putting down 20 to 50% sometimes for a down payment on a house if you're going to qualify for in order to get a mortgage loan. And rates are going up a little bit right now. They're up what is it now, 4.5%, something like that for a 30-year mortgage loan, up from 3.5% a year ago, which percentage-wise is a big jump. But if you think about it historically, 25 years ago, interest rates were what, 16, 17% in the 80s?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe 30 years
18,
ago.
19, yeah, really high.
Yeah, so historically they're still kind of basement low, but they are creeping up. So, but as far as getting kind of easy mortgage loans like the banks were doing 10 years ago, I haven't seen or heard about that returning. If it is, then that's kind of a scary thought. But I haven't heard about that.
Well, I think they're going to get caught. They'll be a little bit more careful, like they do. I know in Canada they 20% down. I mean, they weren't really worried about the market collapse like they did here. But I think there's going to be a lot of strings attached. That's the key thing. But they are going to have to encourage more home ownership. Home ownership's at a historically low period, a low point for Las Vegas right now. I think it's in high 40s, and it used to be in the 62 or something. So a lot of statistics out there flowing. But it's important to know these figures, and the articles you write and the reports that we have, and our show every week is up to date with current events and local experts in the field. So we encourage our viewers to stay tuned, keep watching the show, and also I do have our shows which we'll be putting on my website, thebestlasvegasrealtor.com, for all our featured guests and dignified guests that come in and share their knowledge. It's always good to be able to access those, so we do put them on our website for our viewers to look at. And if they contact the station or myself, I can get you a copy of the DVD of today's broadcast or any of the guests that you might be particularly interested in. So feel free to give us a call and or contact us at our email if you'd like a copy of any of the shows that we've had. And it is important, though, to keep this timely information. I tell you, it's just so important. Because I've been in the business now 35 years, and what was happening 2 months ago, it's a different market right now. It changes, doesn't it?
Yeah, very quickly.
Yeah. And being ahead of the trend is so important, and following the laws and staying involved with what the changes will be. Again, I just heard this as of last night that this new financing is coming back. I was pretty surprised.
Yeah.
But that these things might come about. But I think they're trying to keep the interest rates down. With inflation, the cost of living going up. If the interest rates go up, it could really affect a lot of derivatives, a lot of big-time Federal Reserve money that's been involved in the recovery. So, we don't know if it's going to get really good or really bad, but I think you have to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And, I've heard some economists that were speaking at a seminar last night, and they're saying get 3 months worth of food goods and 3 months worth of water and a firearm, because things could get chaotic if the banks collapse. And I mean, you hear some radical stuff. And of course, I've been pretty optimistic because I've seen Las Vegas, and I know Las Vegas particularly is drawing investors worldwide. It's a unique city with a 24-hour economy. Like you said, we had a 20% increase a couple years ago, followed by a 30%. And we're still, in some cases, lower than the cost to build these homes.
Yeah.
New builders are you're paying so much more for a new home. There are advantages, but the price per square foot is significantly higher than a resale. And some of these homes that are resales that I sell are, you mentioned short sales, arduous practice, but a process. I just am closing one tomorrow that took a full year, actually about 13 months. Bank of America finally approved it, and it's just a painstaking process. And but the home that I sold in Mountain's Edge was $467 new. Buyers are picking up for $284, and that's full market value really, because short sales, the banks are appraising them now, and very few and far between are selling below market. And one of the things that's happening on the market now, I'm doing one with Aquin, and they're turning the short sales. Once you have an accepted bid and they review it and they have a opinion of value and appraisal done, then they'll put it on their website, and then they'll try to get 19 more bids. They have like 6,000 people bidding throughout the country, and so usually every property that goes on the auction gets about an average of 19 bids. So it can be a little disruptive to the buyer who's been waiting a year, got a property accepted, they're very happy with it, and they say, wait a minute, we're going to put this on an auction and see if we can shop the price higher. So these are recent changes in the last 6 weeks that a lot of the banks are doing. They're set up these websites that will try to drive the prices up. So they want to make sure that they're getting every dollar that the market can command.
Sure.
But so these things are happening, and a lot of changes are coming, and from time to time,
Yeah.
But yeah, it's important to get updated information. Where do you see the market in 5 years? Have you got any kind of
Oof, boy. It's tough to say in a place like Las Vegas.
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Oh wow, I don't even know if you can predict that. I certainly couldn't. Yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah. It's like picking the Super Bowl, huh?
Yeah.
Any given day it might rain.
Yeah.
What about yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What brought you into reporting and journalism and finance, this type of subject?
Sure. I started in journalism in 2006. At a chain of weeklies in San Jose, California, which is, I grew up right outside San Jose in a town called Los Gatos. And so I started freelancing for these local community weeklies. I was getting freelance assignments for probably 2 or 3 months or so. And that was my first exposure to journalism. And I always enjoyed writing, but I had never had any formal journalism training or experience. And I just started doing these freelance stories. And they liked them, and they kept giving me more. And then eventually, one of the staff writers quit, and they hired me to replace her. So I started covering San Jose City Hall for a little while back home, and also I was covering neighborhood news in an area of South San Jose called Almaden Valley. And so I did that for about a year total, and then I left the paper in '07, like middle of '07, to go to journalism school at University of Maryland. I got a journalism master's degree out there. So I was out in College Park, Maryland, and also Annapolis, Maryland for about a year and a half total between the two cities. And then after that, I got a temporary job with the Associated Press up in Trenton, New Jersey. I was covering the New Jersey State House for a little while, for about 4.5 months. It was a temporary assignment. And then after that, I moved back to California, eventually found my way back, and started working for a business paper out there called Silicon Valley Business Journal. And I spent about 2.5 years there, and I did not cover real estate for them as a full-time beat. I did cover distressed real estate, mostly commercial stuff, Chapter 11s, some Chapter 7s, and also a lot of foreclosures, a lot of REOs. But my main beats were I was the finance and legal and sports business reporter. And then toward the end, I started covering government as well, so municipal bonds, the airport, aviation, private, general aviation. What else? Construction projects, that kind of stuff.
Tax liens, tax certificates. You ever get into that type of?
Not really. Not into taxes. No. I covered accounting. That was part of my professional services beat. But as far as tax liens go, I mean, we would cover if there were real estate projects that had a lot of construction liens that had piled up against them. Then we would do a story about that if it was something significant. But that was kind of the closest I came to liens as a
in the
topic.
Silicon Valley, was there like a lot of we think of the technology hub and the innovative.
Yeah, a lot of tech out there. It's not something I covered, but at least I would cover it every once in a while, but because there was always, or not always, but there was often a tech connection to what I was writing about, because it's not the Bay Area is not as dependent on tech as Vegas is on gambling and tourism. It's not even close, but it is a big part of the economy out there. That's for sure. So
a lot of stuff's been going on in Vegas lately. They've been following some of the articles. They've had, I guess, a little bit of news about the rodeo. I guess they're going to keep that in.
Right.
We almost lost that. We don't know if we almost lost it. Nobody wants to leave Vegas, right? Yeah. They've been coming here, 19, 20 years or something?
Something like that, yeah. I wasn't covering that, so I don't know all the details of the National Finals Rodeo, but I know that it's a big moneymaker for Las Vegas. There are a ton of people who come in here from out of state, and they just cram in the hotels. I mean, there are a lot of visitors who come. I mean, if you go down to the South Point in particular, or the Silverton, there are a lot of cowboys who are staying down there, and the place is just packed, and they're at the bars, they're in the restaurants, and they're spending a lot of money here. So if that rodeo had left, that would have been it wouldn't have crippled the economy or anything, but it's a big chunk of money that Vegas wouldn't want to lose. So it's
a lot of convention business comes here. I think we got the CES, we got Electronics Show, we got the World Market for the furniture stores down there. We got the Ruvo Institute. The downtown's got their new art district. I mean, every time I read the paper, I find something new, and enjoy following your articles. And I know a couple times I've reached out to you, and found some of the articles very interesting and noteworthy and timely.
Thanks.
So there's so much going on in Las Vegas. It must be fun to do your job. You must enjoy it.
It's a fun place to be a reporter. Yeah, there's always something going on out here. There's always, some guy who's got some crazy idea and wants to do something. So it's, it's fun. There's always some colorful characters out here and a lot of money kind of washing around. And so it's, it's never dull. That's for sure. It's a great place to cover business. It really is. Even if you're not covering the Strip or casinos or tourism, which frankly I don't. I mean, I sometimes do, but that's not a full-time coverage area for me at all. And so even if you're not covering that, there's still plenty of exciting stuff going on around here for to cover for business.
Oh, sure. I can remember about 20 years ago there was a guy that I thought was kind of eccentric, Bob Stupak. He wanted to build a highest structure in the west of Mississippi, and we have the stratosphere. And I've taken a few of my kids up on those rides up there, and I have to tell you, they're terrifying. Don't go there. Not just kidding. If you're an adrenaline junkie, you'll love it. But they got things they throw you off. They got bungee jump, and I don't know what else. They got Mr. Stuka. Have you ever been up on that?
I have not. No, I am terrified of heights, so I will not be out there. I would go up to the observation deck, but that's about it. There is no way that you're going to get me on one of those rides. There's just no chance. No chance.
I know. I had my kids take me up there twice, 3 times. I'm trying to be brave here, and I'm thinking, what am I, nuts? Am I getting on this thing, But there's a lot of excitement here. There's roller coasters. There's just so much going on here. Entertainment, 24 hours a day. People who leave Vegas, they seem to almost always come back. Yeah. It's just the economy. It's 24-hour fun, and the hotels and the entertainment. So I've loved living in Las Vegas. I've been here almost 50 years. So
wow.
Yeah, one of the jokes I told Dale, our station president, is that when I first got here on Buffalo Road, they were Buffalo, And I'm not quite that old, but I did know a man that actually told us that. And, it was a lot of fun, but
I always hear stories about when people moved here, the town ended at Decatur, or the town ended at Russell Road, or whatever, and it was just all dirt beyond that, and so it's I can only imagine how fast it was changing.
You needed a horse back then, or a dirt bike to get to some of these places that are mainstream right now.
Yeah, I've heard about people who rode around on dirt bikes to get places. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. Yeah. Well, gosh, it's sure been a pleasure having you here today with us, and hope to have you back on the station soon.
Great.
Thank you for sharing. Always a pleasure. And if people have noteworthy news or some commentary that think that they're involved with, can they contact you through email? Or?
Sure. Yeah, they can. If you've got tips, or if you know something that's going on in the real estate market, you can write to eli.segall@lasvegassun.com.
Good. Well, thank you, Eli. I appreciate it, and hope to have you on soon again.
Thanks for having me.
We look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 5 o'clock at 9:30 right here on TV 17, right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And thanks for sharing with us today. We'll see you next week right here.